All right, if you've ever touched a Windows computer, you definitely know the pop-up I'm talking about. You know, the one that dims your whole screen and asks for permission before a program can make a change? Yep, that's User Account Control, or UAC for short. We see it so often we just click yes without even thinking. But here's the thing, that simple little prompt is a super important security gatekeeper, and today we're going to see exactly how attackers have figured out how to pick its lock.
Do you want to allow this app to make changes to your device? I mean, come on, you've seen this a million times, right? It's basically the bouncer of your computer, checking IDs before letting anything into the VIP lounge of your system files. A quick click on yes, and you're good to go. But imagine this. What if that prompt never even appears? What if a piece of malware could just waltz right in and get full administrator access without ever asking you? Well, that's exactly what a UAC bypass is, and we're about to break down exactly how it's done. So here's our game plan. First, we'll get into why that annoying pop-up even exists. Then we'll check out Windows' cool two-key system and find its one big weakness, the auto-elevate feature. From there, we'll see how hackers hijack trusted programs, how we can catch them red-handed, and finally, what you can do to beef up your own defenses. Okay, first things first, why do we even have UAC? Well, before it showed up with Windows Vista, things were kind of like the Wild West. Most people ran their computers as administrators all the time, which meant any program you opened, including nasty malware, instantly got the keys to the entire kingdom. It was a total security nightmare. So, UAC came along and changed everything by bringing in this idea called the principle of least privilege. It's a simple concept, but it's incredibly powerful. Basically, it says the program should only get the absolute minimum permissions they need to do their job. If a program wants more power, it has to stop and ask you first. This puts up a huge wall between malware and total control of your machine. So how does Windows actually pull this off? Let's dive into the core mechanics. You can think of it like a really clever two-key system designed for security. It all starts with something called token splitting. When a user who's an administrator logs into Windows, the system doesn't just hand over a single master key. Nope. Instead, it creates two completely separate digital keys, or what we call access tokens. So, the first key is your day-to-day key, the standard user token. It's got a medium security clearance, which is perfect for just browsing the web or checking email, but it's not powerful enough to mess with critical system files. The second key is the master key, the admin access token. This one has high security clearance and total system control, but it's kept locked away. It only comes out when you specifically say yes to that UAC prompt. And these different security levels are enforced by a framework called mandatory integrity control. Just picture a building with different security zones. A program running in a low security zone, like your web browser, can't just stroll into a high security zone, like your core system files, and start redecorating. The operating system itself enforces those walls. But here's the plot twist. To make Windows less annoying for everybody, Microsoft built in a little exception. And this exception, which was designed purely for convenience, created the exact vulnerability that hackers love to exploit today. This feature is called Auto Elevate. See, there's a small hand-picked list of essential Windows programs that get a special hall pass. They can automatically grab that high-integrity admin key without ever showing you a pop-up. This is so you're not getting constantly hammered with prompts just for doing normal system stuff. Now, for a program to get this special treatment, it's got to pass a pretty strict security check. It has to be in a protected system folder, it has to be digitally signed by Microsoft, and its own internal code, its manifest, has to specifically ask for this auto-elevate status. So, on paper, it looks pretty solid. So, where's the hole in the armor? It's a classic case of misplaced trust. The problem is, some of these highly trusted programs are built to look for their instructions in places that a normal, low-privilege program can write to, like certain parts of the Windows registry. So an attacker can leave a malicious set of instructions in this unlocked mailbox, knowing that a trusted process is going to come by, pick it up, and carry it right past the security guards. So let's get into how this flaw is actually used in the wild. This is where all that theory turns into a real stealthy attack. Okay, so the most common method is what's called a registry hijack. It's basically a four-step trick. Step 1. The attacker's malware, which is just running as a regular user, plants a malicious command in a specific, user-accessible part of the registry. Step 2. The malware then triggers a completely legitimate, auto-elevating Windows program. Step 3. That trusted program, just doing its job, goes and reads the attacker's malicious command from the registry. And finally, step 4, because it's a trusted process, it executes that command with high privileges. Boof, the UAC prompt is completely bypassed.
And look, this is not just a theory. Bad guys use this stuff all the time. They target everyday Windows tools you'd never suspect, like FODHelper.exe for managing Windows features, or SDCLT.exe for backups. And as you can see here, real-world malware groups like Raspberry Robin and Warzone Rad use these exact programs to silently take over a machine. And it doesn't stop at the registry. There are more advanced methods too, like abusing the Component Object Model, or COM, which is just a system that lets different bits of software talk to each other. Attackers find these special COM objects that also auto-elevate, and then trick them into running malicious code. This is actually a favorite technique of the infamous ransomware group, Lockbit.
So, if all of this is happening silently in the background, how in the world can anyone catch it? Well, this is where security teams have to become digital detectives, looking for little behavioral clues that something just isn't right.
The most reliable way to spot this is something called parent-child process analysis. Normally, when you open something like the command prompt, its parent is your desktop, Explorer.exe, and both run at medium integrity. But during a UAC bypass, you see something really weird, a command prompt with high integrity being launched by an unexpected parent, like FODHelper.exe. It's a dead giveaway. That's like seeing a world-class chef suddenly walk out of an airplane's cockpit. It just doesn't make sense.
On top of that, security tools can set up digital tripwires. They can monitor for any weird changes to those specific registry keys we talked about. They can sound an alarm anytime a process suddenly jumps to high integrity without UAC's approval. And for the really advanced stuff, they can even log when those specific auto-elevating COM objects get activated.
Look, knowing how the attack works and how to spot it is one thing, but preventing it is way better. So let's talk about strengthening your defenses.
First off, you can actually configure UAC itself. The default setting in Windows isn't even the most secure one. If you crank it all the way up to Always Notify, you get the highest level of security. It forces a prompt for any system-level change, even those made by Windows itself, and that closes a lot of the loopholes we've been talking about. But UAC is just one piece of the puzzle. Honestly, the single best defense is true least privilege. If a user isn't in the local administrators group to begin with, there's no high-integrity admin token to steal, which makes a UAC bypass totally impossible. Plus, using application control tools can stop the malicious code from running, even if the hijack works. And of course, keeping Windows updated is huge, because Microsoft is always in this cat-and-mouse game, patching these bypasses as fast as they're found.
At the end of the day, it's best to think of UAC not as some unbreakable wall, but as a really important alarm system. It's designed to tell you when something suspicious is happening. The techniques we've covered today, that's just how attackers try to cut the wires and silence that alarm. So the real question you should be asking yourself is, on your system, is that alarm set as loud as possible or is it running on silent?